We'll work it
Yeah,
out.
you just take it round. So you got, instead of here and here, you're like here and here.
Right.
You'll just get more shape on the faces, a bit more flattering.
Got you. Oh, we like flattering,
Hmm.
don't we? Good. Should we do it?
Yes.
Well, we haven't started anyway.
Yes.
If you're not guess,
I guessed
you
that.
did guess.
I did guess that.
The record buttons. Welcome to the Starting Pixel podcast.
Thank you very much, Rob. It's
That's
nice
all right.
to be here.
So just a reminder, it's a podcast. What is this podcast? The Starting Pixel podcast is about basically trying to interview some really cool people who are in sort of this really weird space of using the latest technology, or actually not even the latest technology, using some technology that hasn't sort of traditionally been in content.
Some technology that hasn't been invented yet sometimes.
And sometimes
feels like that
as well.
sometimes.
Right, it is. So we're talking about that, and today we're talking to Ben Saffer.
Very nice to be here.
Yeah. So tell us a bit about yourself, Mr. Saffer.
Well, yes, a very quick biography. So I've been in the film industry for not far off.
Move that to there, I think. There you go.
So I've been in the film industry for coming up on 20 years. I mean, I had a bit of a slow start, but basically sort of started off doing a bit of editing and some camera work and ADing on like student films and all sorts of things like that. Eventually found my way into the camera department, and around the time that digital was replacing film cameras in drama and
You're
feature
not
films.
that old.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. This was sort of early 2010s, basically.
Got ya. Okay.
And
you are quite young then.
yeah, so and and eventually found the job of a DIT, digital imaging technician,
Right.
because back then camera departments, camera assistants weren't familiar with digital cameras.
Right.
So there was a role for somebody on set who just knew how the camera worked, and I literally had read the manual for the red camera, which most people hadn't at the time.
No.
And that got me a job and got me into the industry. Like, it was as simple as that. Like, read the manual. Yeah.
Right. Who knew that would solve a lot of problems?
I know. Yeah,
right?
literally. And so did that for a long time. That took me into a lot of different areas, and I worked my way up as a DIT from doing little indie films to TV like Black Mirror and Bridgerton, to big feature films like No Time to Die and The Meg 2, and big movies like that. So did that for like the best part of 10 years, and had always been shooting short films alongside that. So at some point decided I wanted to step up to DOPing, and kind of took that leap. Started saying no to DIT work, and then through DOPing I also found I was always interested in the technology of things like Unreal Engine.
Right.
So I actually started on my VP journey with doing previs. So I'd previously done previs for short films, in things like Cinema 4D and like however we could really.
Right. Yeah.
I can't draw, so I always wanted storyboards. I love storyboards and working that way, but I can't draw them, so was using 3D software to do that. And somebody said, "Oh, you should try Unreal Engine."
But to do storyboards.
To do storyboards and
okay,
previs, yeah.
interesting.
So it's a big thing of mine, a big like hobby horse of mine is we should all be doing our previs in Unreal Engine because it's great for previs. So I did that for quite a while, and then that led into obviously virtual production because everyone started using Unreal for virtual production, and so started shooting quite a lot of virtual production. Then that led into sort of VP supervising, which I've been doing more and more of, and also a lot of education stuff. So I've run courses for Screen Skills with Screen Scotland, with Final Pixel Academy, and so that's been a really fun journey. And I do think we're at a very interesting point in filmmaking technology where we've been on a journey, obviously, for the best part of 20 years, basically my whole career, in terms of democratizing filmmaking. I literally got into it because I was working for rock bands and owned a 7D. And
what's
that
the 7D?
The Canon 7D
okay,
DSLR.
Right, okay.
Yeah, so I was like working with bands, and I owned a 7D, and that meant I was a music video director. Like, that was just how that worked back then.
Yeah.
Like,
you've got a camera.
You had a camera. You were on tour with a band. They were like, "You want to shoot a video?"
You're the director.
That was all you needed. Like, that was the CV. I wouldn't have been able to do that 10 years early because I wouldn't have been able to shoot music videos on a camera that was affordable to own. You know.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I feel like that process is continuing, and Unreal Engine is part of that. I think there's going to be AI tools that are part of that. I'm very cautious to not. I'm quite anti-hype cycle.
Right.
I was very anti-hype cycle with virtual production. I think that got very out of hand for a while. But I think we've ended up in a really good place where it's a really useful tool, and now we're really using it in actually interesting ways rather than just bigging it up as if it's going to be sort of the be all and end all. I think similarly with AI, I think there's a lot of hype, but I think there's interesting tools emerging, and I think it is going to do a lot to broaden the opportunities that people have to make films and tell stories.
That's very cool. A couple of things that jumped into my mind as you were sort of talking. You've jumped around a lot. You sort of got in literally by picking your camera up and shooting videos for a band, and then you sort of got yourself into reading a manual, being the person on set that knows how to put how to format the disc, and then actually what's going to happen with that is, well, that means I'm now DIT because I'm holding the disc.
That was
right?
pretty much it. Yeah, it was pretty much like, can you make a red camera work for more than 2 hours at a time?
Right.
Can you like voodoo it into functioning for a whole shoot?
Right.
That was the job back then.
That's right. So you did that, and then the cool thing is that you're a great person who's had lots and lots of different opportunities as well. And I guess one of the big challenges at the moment is, how do people get into filmmaking? Is that the same now as it was?
Yeah, I think it's to some extent it's got easier. When I started off, stuff was quite expensive. I don't think DaVinci Resolve was free when I started using that in like Resolve 7. I'm pretty sure like I didn't have it personally. A company that I used to do some work for had a copy, and that was how I like started learning DaVinci Resolve. Right. Now it's free. Unreal Engine is free. Like I used to have to use a not necessarily legitimately bought a copy of Cinema 4D to do previs in Cinema 4D when I was like a student. Yeah. Because I couldn't afford cinema. Unreal Engine is free for if you're making under $1 million or whatever. It's basically free to young people using it. And the knowledge is free and available. That was the thing. We had to figure it all out and read. You had to read the Resolve manual if you wanted to learn how to use DaVinci Resolve. Right. Now you can just go on YouTube. Like there was a few things. There was Video Copilot, Andrew Kramer, if anyone remembers that. That's how like I started learning things like After Effects. Right. And a bit of VFX stuff back in the day. Now there's like literally billions of hours of content.
Oh, yeah, it's amazing.
I make some of that stuff myself and try and share the knowledge. So I think there's a lower barrier to entry to start learning the skills. But the thing that is important, the thing that is universal and will never change, whatever the technology happens to technology, whatever new technology comes along, the thing that will never change is the storytelling. You have to be able to tell stories. And that's the thing that is the hardest thing to learn. That is the thing that nobody can teach you. Like, you can't learn a checklist of things to learn how to tell stories. Right. You just have to start telling stories and then gradually get less bad at it.
And do you think someone who sees it as a job, sees the job description DIT, do they need to have that muscle of being able to tell stories as well?
I think to some extent, yeah, because it is a technical job, DIT, but you're working for the cinematographer. Yeah. So you need to get inside their head and understand. To be a collaborator for them, you need to understand what they are trying to do to tell the story. Right. The same as in any kind of assistant role, really. You need to understand what they're trying to achieve and why they're trying to do it. Right. And certainly by the end of my DIT career, I was working with some very incredibly talented cinematographers who were very collaborative in their approach. I used to do a lot of work with a DOP called Mark Patton, who's shot things like Silo and Andor Season 2, and he used to call me his human light meter. He used to, when he was on film, run out with a light meter and take readings over the place, and with the DIT, he uses the DIT to keep a track of all the exposures across multiple cameras, across multiple sets, whatever, and keep track of all that across a whole show. and you've got to understand, like, why does this scene need to be more darkly exposed and lit than another scene?
Right.
What's the emotional reason for that? What does Mark, what does he feel like the reason is for that? And sort of keep track of that in your head, so that on this day on this set, this should be actually half a stop darker than when we were here 2 weeks ago, or this next scene or whatever. And that's all still storytelling, visual storytelling, and that's what it was great to learn over many years from some of the best people in the industry. And also, as a DIT, what you're often doing is a lot of the look development of the grade of the show.
Right.
Very often they don't have a colorist on board, or they don't know who the post house is going to be when you start shooting. So it's often up to the DIT to set that initial look that you're going to use on set.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
And that is also the hardest. That's probably one of the hardest things about DIT jobs, especially in that mid-range TV sort of world, is that you're often doing that like a week into the job. You've done like a week of camera prep, and then the DOP is like, right, we're going to set the look for the show set, and you're like, I barely know the show. I've only been sent one script. Like, I barely just met the DP like 4 days ago. I just had like one coffee interview with him, and that's it. And then you're trying to get in their head. So that's where the experience comes in to really sort of quickly know how to ask the questions, how to get a handle on, most DPs will say they want it to look like film. You have to understand what that means, what kind of film, what era of film. Do they mean grainy? Do they mean a soft curve? Do they mean a certain type of skin tones? What do they really mean by that? So you can very quickly get in and sort of understand that. And it's the same now I've been now pretty much full-time DPing for 4 years. Is it 4 years? It's quite a while now. 3 or 4 years. And it's the same with a director. Like, I very often, we were talking about this the other day. I did a workshop at the European Lens Summit, where we were doing like my lens test, what I would do when I'm testing lenses on a project,
Right.
In prep, and I sort of did it with a live audience. And we were talking about the fact that when you're prepping a feature film, I normally get, if it's like a 4 or 5 week shoot, I normally get like 3 weeks prep.
Right.
And you're just fighting for as much time with the director as possible, because they're so busy and they're getting pulled in so many directions. You just want to, so I'm always trying to like grab a coffee with them first thing in the morning, or like arrange to go for dinner with them in the evening, or just to get more face time to get in their head of what is the movie that they see in their head.
Right.
How does it feel? How do they emotionally respond to it? What are the key moments in the story beats that they really think are the most important? Which characters are really sort of representing the emotional core of the film? All those sort of things. And you've got to do that in the space of like 4 days
Right.
before you start making the big choices that are going to set the look of the film. Right. The look of a film for me as a cinematographer is set in prep most of the time. You actually, on set, you are there to make your days.
Right.
You're there to like cover a certain number of pages in a day and get all the shots and get the coverage. And
you can't be making the creative decisions.
You
do,
mistakes. But you're making them based on the things that you've done in prep, right? You're making those decisions based on like choices you've made in prep. So you have to make those choices really early on in prep. So that first week of prep is like, I just want to get inside the director's mind.
Right.
And then you're making choices pretty quickly about like, what lenses are we going to be on? Are we shooting anamorphic or spherical? Are we shooting on vintage lenses or modern lenses?
Right.
Do we want flary lenses? Do we want very clean lenses? Do we want lenses that compress distance and make everything feel like it's right on top of us? Do we want lenses that create space and depth?
Right.
And you're doing that sort of while sprinting to understand what the story is
as well, right?
So and I think that explains a lot about like the like big budget jobs have 6 months prep, right? If you're doing like a Star Wars show or something, you've got like 6 months prep.
Right.
If you're doing a little indie film, you might have like 2-3 weeks. But sometimes you get amazing indie films, and I've been lucky to be involved in like, I think at least one or a couple of those. And largely the thing was, we had more prep time.
Right.
Largely the thing was, me and the director on those jobs decided we're not getting paid for it, but we're just gonna concentrate on this, at least emotionally. Right. Concentrate on it for 2 or 3 months before the shoot, and just be absolutely ready in every way we possibly can be. And I sort of think my advice to young filmmakers would be, don't rush into everything.
Yeah.
Take your time and, you know, write a story you like, then rewrite it, and keep doing that until you hand it to people and they don't just say, yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, really good. Oh, yeah, no, well done. That's really good.
Right.
You've written a script. That's great. Keep rewriting it until people say, bloody hell, how can I get involved with that?
Right.
And then just get yourself as much prep time as you can. Just fight for as much time as possible to just plan it and do things like, I mean, I think you can see the jobs I've done previs on, you can see the previs whether it's going to be good or not. And I've done previs on some jobs where I've watched the previs and gone, I don't think this is going to be I won't say which jobs, but I've definitely done it where you kind of, and I remember saying to the director on one of them, I was like, I think maybe we need to like have a think about how these scenes fit together, because I think they're like, doesn't feel like it's really like tying together that well. And I've done other jobs where you do the previs and you're like, this is mint. This is going to be great.
Right.
No worries at all. This is going to be amazing. And so I like that process, whether it's storyboarding or previs or however you're planning your shoots.
Well, I guess that's experience and maturity, right? It's like whenever you decorate a house, it's always my go-to is like, because I'm firm believer, absolutely plan, because the last thing is you put the paint on. But when you're decorating a room, there is so much prep.
Yeah.
You're rubbing down, you're cleaning the shore, you're filling, you're doing all of this work and it looks rubbish and people race to put the paint on because that's the thing. But when you do it really well, that part of it is like you're in the last 80% of the entire project kind of thing.
Yeah.
Before you put the paint, and then it looks amazing. And then it's suddenly done and it's like 2 hours later you're moving in.
Yeah. So this is a really good segue. It's a great segue we've hit upon here, Rob.
Wow.
So I've
decorating
recently
your house.
No, so I've recently been creating an app for planning film shoots.
Blimey. Oh, come on, Grandad. Everyone did apps ages ago.
Yeah, but I don't code, right?
Right.
I don't code. I do a lot of things I don't code. I don't write code. I never have. I was a failed web developer when I was about 17, and my mate Luke was a much better web developer, and he's made a career out of it, and he's very successful in a tech company now. And I was never good at code. I flunked out of that. But I had a suite of apps, various apps that me and directors were using on our iPads, on our Macs when we were prepping films, and all of them, or the combination of them, and some of the apps specifically, were like frustrating and slow and not really designed for what we were trying to do.
Right.
A lot of them are designed for like design agencies and
sort of
software developers and stuff like that, and we're not really sort of laid out the way in our workflow and the mental model that we wanted when we're prepping a film. So at some point I said to a director friend of mine, stuff this, I'm going to make like the app that we want for prepping films. And then I saw somebody talking about Claude Code, which is this Anthropic thing that's, I don't really understand what it does, but it lives in your terminal and you can like code with it. And I just started noodling around and sort of, I knew a little bit how to use Xcode. I noodled around with a few things before in Xcode. And just sort of started kind of prompting things and just like getting just like a splash page and a new project button and like, I can put could lay a thing on a canvas here and like put a camera down and put an actor down and point the camera at the actor. And basically sort of after 3 months of evenings, I've like ended up with like quite a good app.
That's so cool.
Nearly like, I've got sort of a list of beta testers who are going to start testing it, and it's literally going to be out in the next couple of weeks for like planning film shoots. So you kind of do your little top-down diagram of where your cameras are going, where your actors are going, your furniture, your walls, your doors, and all that sort of stuff. But then for each shot, you can attach your sort of shot deck reference images, your storyboards, and then you've got all these different views. You can do equipment lists that are tagged to different shots, so you can see like, this scene requires a Jimmy Jib, and this scene requires a M90 light or whatever. And by the end of it, you know, kind of day by day what your equipment list is going to be for the film and all that stuff. So using very much my mental model of how I like to prep a film, and the beta testing is going to be a really interesting process of seeing whether other people share that mental model,
Yeah.
which is going to be like an interesting process. But that's been really fun. But that's very much what you were saying about the planning, right? That with prompting these AI systems, it's all about the planning. I was showing a friend this morning how I have created that app.
Yeah.
And that is a process of hours and hours of planning to create a prompt that you then get the AI to go and code something.
Yeah.
So it's hours and hours of back and forth in a conversation with an AI sometimes.
Yeah.
I use all different ones for different things.
Yeah.
But back and forth in a conversation, and then giving them a structure and saying, turn the output of this conversation into something that matches this structure.
Right.
And then going and testing that. So giving that structure to a different AI and saying, sort of red team this, find the holes in it, where's the problems?
Yeah.
Or this is the code base and this is the thing. Go and compare the two and see whether what we're planning actually fits with the current code base and it will work with the way the app works. And it's like a really interesting process, and it feels like it's very similar to my approach throughout my career, which is like, there's a new piece of technology, let's break it. First of all, let's like find out what it's not good at.
Yeah.
And then let's like read the manual, right?
Yeah, because normally the people, the product engineers know that what the constraints of it, and they write it down.
Yeah, so it's like read the documentation, read the manual, figure out what it is and isn't good at, and then work out how I can make tools for myself,
right? Using
that new software. So like literally exactly the same thing in Unreal Engine, right? It was like, oh, this is for games engines, but people are starting to make cinematics in it. What I want is not production quality cinematics. What I want is a tool where I can communicate with my collaborators. This is what I think the shot is. This is what I think kind of the lighting is.
Right.
This is what probably the background is a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's a really good communication tool. And it's kind of, I'm just carrying on the same process when it comes to sort of coding apps and tools and whatever.
Yeah, interesting. Because it's, I mean, it's come a long way. It's come a long way in 2 years. AI. It's like
massively
in 24 months. Right?
Yes, that's true. It has. Yeah,
it's like absolutely mad, and you can imagine actually sort of with the latest ones, which are going to be what's the process? They're going to be able to agents.
Yes.
And you get AI agents to sort of also do other things as well. So you can sort of extrapolate and think to yourself, actually, you could get all of these things, this AI agent talking to all of the different departments as well, right? And actually project managing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, to some extent. Yeah, right? Maybe. I mean, the thing I think with it is like over the last 24 months, I mean, the core fundamental models have got a lot better.
Yeah, totally.
But what's really happened is that people have figured out ways to implement them, to use the tools. I think that's actually what's happened more than the core models getting better.
I agree. Yeah.
Is that and my big thing with AI is, I think, as filmmakers, as people who know how to tell stories, as people who communicate visually, we need to be building tools for ourselves using these things and not leaving it to the technologists.
Yeah.
Because my impression is, where I've seen things being made by the technology guys for filmmakers, it's not very good. It's like a very outsider's view of how filmmaking works.
Yeah, and that's always the case with technologists, because they have to try and understand actually what you want. And unless everyone's really invested, you know, I come from a technology background, unless everyone's invested in that, if you're not getting the time with the director to go, try the UX, oh, too busy, you're never going to sort of be able to deliver it. Yeah. And so it's not, you know, it's not necessarily their fault. It's whoever's trying to make it kind of thing, unless they're trying to make it themselves. And then, you know, that's a challenge in itself, right? It's like trying to you come up with a great idea and then try and find the right people to be able to give you feedback, who actually know what they need. And that's an art in itself, is finding out actually what someone needs rather than what they imagine they need.
Yeah, and that's why I think we should be involved in making the tools, right? I think as filmmakers, we should get involved in making the tools and not be scared, and not be sort of scared and put off by it. I mean, I'd say, like, I don't particularly find the sort of prompt to video sort of tools to be like particularly compelling. They might get more compelling, but we were talking about this morning. Like, I just don't know what the great use case is for it, because ultimately when we're filming people, which is mostly what we do, like the reason we're filming a person is because we want to have some insight into that person and their psyche, and like prompting. Like, I'm not an animator. I didn't go into animation.
Yeah, and
like VO-saw or whatever is ultimately animation.
Yeah,
it's just animation that's made to look like video.
Yeah,
but like the top 100 movies are not majority animation. There's some amazing animated films in there.
Yeah.
But they're not animation because people want to see other real people, and mostly other famous people who they've heard about in like the magazines and on late night shows and in interviews and stuff, doing things in front of a camera.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a penny dropped with me a couple of months ago, really, about it, sort of through the lens of virtual production, and it really, because I just interviewed guys at Distortion. That's the ones in Dimensions.
Yeah.
About they did a mocap sort of demo. Couple of actors wearing mocap suits, and then they had a couple of metahumans on an LED wall in the distance waving, and there was sort of this thing. And we'd sort of played around with that at our studio as well. And it's sort of the penny dropped around. The technology's great, but what you're really trying to get is it being live directable VFX, right? So you can actually say to the people wearing the mocap suit, wave a bit harder, look scared, but you can't do that with someone then just on a prompt, because it's a very linear process.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean, there's lots of things with the prompting stuff. Where I think, like, I don't work in VFX, I have interacted a lot with VFX and VFX companies over the years, and done shows that have had a lot of VFX. I do think it will have probably quite a profound impact on the workflows of VFX, but not necessarily the outputs. Like, it feels to me the same as going from a Steenbeck editing machine to Avid in the early 90s.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
That it's like, it's just clearly faster and the output is more flexible.
Right.
But it's not like, ultimately editors made that transition. Like, I know personally editors who were editing on film, at Pinewood with literal bins,
full of celluloid,
full of celluloid, and then transitioned to editing on Avid. Their storytelling skills were exactly the same between those two things, and that's where I think we are to some extent with AI. I think back to things that we tried to do when we were like kids starting out in terms of like basic VFX stuff in After Effects, and it was shit. Yeah, it was bad. It was no good. We didn't know what we were doing. We were crap at it.
Yeah.
Those kids now, at that age, will be able to do some pretty good VFX with stuff. I mean, I don't know if Wonder Studio is still going, but that sort of one-click replace a character with a robot thing was great.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's not going to make, like, that exact technology is not going to get used in Hollywood film, because as soon as the director says, oh, actually, I want the robot to be slightly more like this or slightly more like that, the whole thing falls apart, because you don't have that kind of microcontroller stuff.
That's what I mean.
You need a rig.
It's this micro control, micro direction.
And that's exactly.
Slight, and when you hear a director interact with the talent, the actors, it's a huge nuances of sort of emotion or movement and stuff like that.
Yeah,
you can't imagine that actually it's worth all of that effort into.
No, I mean we have it. We've tried, as probably most people in virtual production have. We've had like some jobs where the client suddenly decided they want a different background at the last minute, and you're like, let's see if we can do this in Midjourney.
Right.
And like, it's a freaking frustrating nightmare a lot of the time, because you want a really specific thing and it just wants to give you whatever it wants to give you. And there's better tools for reframing, for changing the motion of shots, for having a bit more control over stuff. But like, honestly, several times we've just ended up going out and shooting something because it's like we just can't get the thing we want to look the way we want it. So we just go shoot the thing.
Yeah.
And like, I'm sure those things are going to converge and it's going to get better and the tools will get better. But like I said, ultimately, what we are doing in live action filmmaking and storytelling is filming a real person's performance so that the audience feel a real life connection to a real person.
Right.
I mean, maybe we're going to get into a world where audiences really can't tell the difference. And then I don't know. That's complicated and tricky, and ultimately maybe that actually makes like movie stars more valuable, because if they can say, Tom Cruise says there'll never be an AI version of me, I'll never allow it, sort of thing, then that if you're seeing a Tom Cruise performance, it's a real person, not an AI. Maybe we'll get to that point, but we're just not anywhere near there yet. And what I think is interesting about the technology is the way that we as filmmakers can build tools to do things that we were either cost prohibited or just kind of like my app that I'm developing, which is called Shotpad. Shotpad, like iPad.
Oh, I see.
Shotpad.
Like film.
It's like a notepad for when you're in prep, really. It's sort of where you note down everything in prep, and then it's there exactly in the place you need it when you need it. That's the idea. That's the pitch. Anyway, but like Shotpad does not have a massive audience. There's a few thousand people around the world that will be useful to, but to have built that without AI would have taken so much developer time that there's no way you could economically have done it.
Right, yeah.
The competitors or the similar apps that I have used in the past are either supporting other business models where that company has another business model, the app is a way into that business model, or they're much more reduced elements of the workflow and they just do that one specific
Super
thing.
Niche.
To be able to create something that does all the things in one place, I couldn't have done that before the AI coding tools.
Do you find was it an enjoyable process?
It's really addictive, actually. It is really fun. Because I think everything that I do, I like to have something tangible at the end of it. So that's why I like making films. My hobby is woodworking. Right. Because I like hammering some things together, gluing stuff, and coming away with a piece of furniture. Yeah. You physically have more exists in the world that didn't exist before you spent those 3 hours doing it, Yeah, totally. And that's what is really addictive with the AI coding is you, by the end of an evening doing it, I physically have, there's just things in the app that weren't there before. Right. Stuff exists that didn't exist before. So the problem I'm having is that I can't don't let the perfect be the enemy of the good is setting in, and I keep adding features and fixing things rather than just putting a beta out there and getting feedback. Yeah. That's definitely the hardest thing. I've spoken to proper software developers and they also say that's very hard when you're making apps. It's like, you have to just be like, this is the deadline when the beta gets released and we're just releasing it however it is on that day, and new features will be added later.
Well, you can say that a lot. You can say about pretty much any project, right? Whether or not you're making wood.
I'm not a director, right? And I would never want to direct. I just don't want to direct. I'm a DP and a virtual production supervisor. I do not want to direct movies, but I totally understand now how directors feel when they can't finish the film. Yeah. When they just want to keep going back in and tweaking an edit and tweaking a sound mix and tweaking the music and all these things. And the same with scripts, constantly wanting to go in. And I totally get that now, because this is like I've done this from scratch on my own kind of piece of creative work. Yeah. I feel like that 100%. Where I'm just like, I'm like, I could just add this one more feature before I release the beta, which is what's been going on for about the last month, which is why I have a bunch of people who are signed up to do beta testing being like, when's the app coming out?
Yes, it's maybe it's something everyone should try and do as well.
I really would suggest it. I think find something in your life where technology annoys you, or there's not a tool for something that you would wish there to be a tool for. Right. And then I would just go see if the AI tools will help you create it. Right. Definitely when I was at DIT, there was lots of tools that I would have built to make my life easier and to automate things that I was doing repetitively. Right. That I now would build with AI, definitely. I think this is what's exciting about that particular side of the AI stuff. I think there's lots of other things with the AI that I think there are bigger moral and ethical questions about. But I think, and possibly software developers will disagree with me, but I know that they're using the tools, so I'm not sure if they would. I think when it comes to software development, writing code, effectively humans translating their thoughts into a machine-readable format, is not necessarily the end form of us creating software, right? It's you have to go and learn a language to do a certain niche part of computer coding.
Yes, right.
It's not. we're translating ourselves to be understood by the computers. What these AI tools are doing is you can just talk as a human, and then the computer does the translation.
Right.
We don't have to learn how to translate ourselves to the. Maybe it's I don't know. Maybe it's a slightly like arrogant human sort of way of approaching it. Maybe we should learn to talk with the computers or something. But I just feel like it's just a better way of making software, because I just tell it what I want the software to do. Right. And then it comes back and says, well, maybe we should do it this way. And you go, wasn't quite like that. I more want it a little bit more like this. And it goes, all right, or what about this then? Yeah. And you go, yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and
then it goes and does it. And that's great.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's as you say, it's the sort of it's not the, is it the ethical? It's the paradigm shift of the challenging, of also fear, and not necessarily really, I suppose, getting your head around the benefits of it. When you're in a role that will be directly affected by something like AI or any new technology, whether or not you were a farrier or a horse breeder back in the late 1800s, right? There's a fear sort of perspective. And they were talking about this on the Rest is Entertainment, about this sort of approaching it wasn't the Rest of Politics, in the introduction of using the framework of a world transportation built around horses, and then using that framework when cars came out, i.e. the man walking in front of the car with a red flag kind of scenario. Yeah. Right. It's like you have to move on in order to be able to understand that side of things as well. And it's like if my sort of one of those things is like Uber driving. Uber came along, changed mass transportation, and black cab drivers. There's probably less of them. The knowledge, there's probably less people doing it. It took for ages. It was a tool of the time, and then suddenly this thing came along. But it's changed mass transportation really for the good. A woman can be out on the street at 3 o'clock in the morning after coming out of a party, push a few buttons, and be safely in the car 10 minutes later. Yeah. Whereas a few years ago, she would have been waiting and trying to hail a cab and feel incredibly vulnerable, right? It's like, so there's this sort of pivot as well, but also that sort of accessibility, you being able to do it yourself using AI didn't put a developer out of a job.
Oh no,
because you would never have been able to do it. Not a
chance. I mean, there's literally no way in hell that I would have been able to raise the money to afford a developer to do as much work as I have been able to do with that app, to add the number of features in the short period of time. I mean, I would have needed a team of like 10 people to add all the features in a period of time.
And there was no business.
And there's no
business model for it, because you've been selling it for £10,000 ago to make some money back.
Exactly, and it may be possible to make money off this app at some point in the future, but ultimately I was making it because I was so annoyed with the stupid mix of different bloody apps that we were using to prep films. I just did it for myself because I like to be really organised in prep, and I don't like having a million Dropbox folders with stuffed full of crap. I just wanted one place where everything was held, and now I've made it, and it's really good. Like, it's great fun to prep that way, and I really enjoy it. And so it totally did it for me. And I think, I think for a long time, one of the things that's been the most gate kept in our modern world is the ability to create software, that we use it every single day. Everybody. I can't imagine there is a single person in the UK who doesn't use a piece of software on a daily basis. Right. Your TV is running software. Your phone is running software.
If you've got email,
your car is running software. Right. Everything is the card machine. Everything is running software. Yeah. And yet, the number of people who have any ability to create any of that at all is tiny. Yeah. And it is a bit like filmmaking was before the DSLR came around, or the smartphone with video capabilities. Yeah. That it's a very small number of people, and now anybody can do it. And I think it annoys me that we keep talking about video generation and Mid-Journey and stuff like that, which I just think is fine, but like isn't really going to change the world, and is a bit like, I don't know. And it also, like, the copyright stuff feels very iffy. No. But with writing software code, it's like you teach it how to teach it the software language.
Right.
You just give it like, this is the software language, this is how it works.
Yeah, and you don't even know what you know to choose between Perl or C++ or
exactly. It just does it. You know,
it works out. I think
it's really interesting.
On the image generation side of things, a little bit to your point about that accessibility is that whether or not it's a static image or it's a video, it's for a lowest common denominator in my head, where you don't need to make beautiful things. So simple Facebook adverts, if you're a plumber, where you can literally tap, going, I'm a plumber in Walthamstow, and I'd like to create an ad to advertise my business. Yeah. And it's not, you know, you've got an ad.
Yeah,
and it's
totally.
and it's probably being served automatically.
Yeah.
Already. And whereas before, that plumber would have had to spend an awful lot of time doing word of mouth, all sorts of things to build up his business or her business over a lot of time. Yeah. And I think for a lowest common denominator, again, it will be for those moving picture things and the static images, they'll work really, really well. Yeah. And then you're probably going to get AI just talking to itself as well a lot, and we're all just going to go down to the pub. That's my idea. So we're all going to be bored of watching stuff. AI, like on Twitter, going to just talk to itself and
maybe social media. Social media might be like that.
We'll seek out live humans, like you said about filmmaking. That's the beauty of filmmaking, is you're seeing these people interact in this sort of whole creative process about it, which is going to be sort of pointless in my head to try and replicate using AI.
Yeah, I think the people. I'll be honest. This may be a controversial statement. I don't know if it is. The people that I've seen saying that AI video generation is going to replace filmmaking have never been on a set and don't understand how filmmaking works.
Right.
Is a statement I've made.
Right.
I might get shouted at for that now. Because I've spent basically all my adult life on film sets, and the reason that films are the way that they are, and this, to be honest, this is partly like the industry's fault and the media's fault and whatever for presenting it as if the director does everything and the actors and the director make the movies. They don't. Film is made by dozens or hundreds of people.
Absolutely,
and
huge team.
The key thing to film is that some very important little detail that tells the story will have been decided by the art department assistant, who's like 23-year-old in the art department office 4 months before they got on set, when they decided to put a sticker here rather than here on a prop, or whatever. Yeah. And thousands, billions of decisions, literally billions of decisions from all these different people's life experiences, backgrounds, work experiences, the mood they were in that day, what they had for lunch, goes into what actually ends up on screen in a film. Yeah. And that is the important thing. And it's not the lowest common denominator like AI is. It's not the average. It's the pinnacle of those people. Yeah. It's not, the problem with the AI stuff is it's just sort of picking a middle point. It is kind of an average. I know that's a simplification, and anybody who really understands it will disagree with me. But like, it's sort of in a way, when you distill it down, it's finding an average middle point. Right. And filmmaking is fundamentally, we're aiming for the peak of it, right? A really good film is a really good film because everybody involved was at the height of their creative and sort of the powers of their experience and their careers and their knowledge and everything they've learned, and they nailed it on that day in that moment when the cameras are rolling. Yeah. And I just don't think AI can do that. No. And I just don't think it ever will. And that's why I'm not that worried about it. No. And to be fair, and I have had this argument made to me a lot of the time it's not everyone's pinnacle, because we all make shit films sometimes. But I don't think that matters. When, like, a lot of people said, yeah, but a lot of stuff is trash, right? A lot of stuff we make is trash. Well, I just don't think that's an argument for deciding that we're going to use a new way of making things, which always makes it trash. Like, I just don't.
Yeah.
We weren't aiming to make a shit film.
No, exactly.
Like,
no one starts out to make a rubbish film.
Yeah,
right?
that was not what we were trying to do. We were trying to make a really great film, and we ended up where we ended up.
Yeah.
But
it's hard, right? Filmmaking, it's not an easy thing. It's A, to get anything greenlit, let alone...
Exactly, but I do think that's fundamentally the difference, and I do think that's important.
Yeah.
That it's billions of choices being made. More choices. Everyone says, oh, but the AI is a billion choices, and it's based on a billion pieces of data and all this sort of thing. I actually think there's more choices and decision points and, forks in the road to get to the point of rolling cameras on a film set than there is in any size LLM model that you could ever come up with.
When I used to work in big tech, there was always this challenge around when a new technology came out. What they really wanted to do was to try and use the technology for something innovative, and of course it never works. There's always a bad taste visually, or something's not working because you're trying to get this square peg into this round hole. You're trying to invent something that this thing can work with, and it's like it never works. But when you were talking about VP and this sort of it becoming a little bit of age now, where because people are getting their heads around it, it's like actually it's a tool. That is the key thing, and it has to be a tool for an artist, in the film world, to use and go, that's the tool I'm using today, whether it's a palette knife, if it was painting, a palette knife or a brush or a spray can, it's the tool to be able to deliver that thing that it needs to be able to do at that moment in time. And I'm sure at some point there will be, some very, very clever people who can interact with an AI, have trained it to know know the nuances of how they type and interact with it. And when someone says, can you do me a moonscape that looks like this and looks like that, they might be able to do it, and it sort of does it. But it's probably for a shot, or it's probably for a thing, rather than being able to do that for the entire movie. And God, how boring would that be anyway? Can you
but also
being
the process is important. This is the other thing, is this idea of we just prompt it and it comes out with it. But that's not, the process is really important. Like I can get Midjourney to light a still image in a pretty similar way to the way that I would light a set, right? But then if I don't one shot lighting a set. Do you know what I mean? I don't single prompt lighting a set. I do it over a period of time. Yeah. Sometimes I have 10 minutes to light a set. Sometimes I have half a day to light a set. But I do it over a period of time, and the process is important in the end result. I was talking to a DP when I do my virtual production supervising. A lot of what I do these days is especially in commercial world, is I get hired on the recommendation of the DP, because because my sort of other life is as a DP with my other hat on. Yeah. So I light my Unreal Engine environments exactly the same way that I would light a real environment. Right. I don't come from video games or VFX, so I don't really know how to light that way. So if I think I'd put an 18K outside the window, I just put an 18K outside the window. Right. So DPs like that because they look at the digital sets and go, oh yeah, that's basically it. And when they want to change, they'll say, oh, can you bring the softbox overhead down a little bit? And I normally have a softbox overhead because I know that's how they'd light it, it's how I'd light it, so I just light it that way, right? Yeah. So, but I wouldn't want an automated way in Unreal Engine of just typing a prompt and it puts all those lights in, because when I'm building that environment and lighting it, it's a process I go through where I put a big light outside the window, and then I look at the balance of the lighting, and I might put a softbox in overhead, or I might put some practical lights in or whatever, but I have to work through that process. The end result isn't the important thing. I think that's what people are missing with the video prompting stuff. It's not just about getting to an end result of certain pixels in certain places. Right. It's about going through a creative development process.
So and that's the difference. And that was the thing about the penny dropping that I said earlier on. The process that's required is a creative process, but what the deliverables is an engineering process. In as much as if an engineer, you ask an engineer to do this, guess what? They're going to come up with AI. They're going to come up with VP. Because that's how this is the most efficient way. It is. it's code perfect, it's zeros and ones perfect, everything like that. But in the creative process, that's it, that's the shot. There's no sort of necessarily of tweaking this, that, and the other. Being exacting over exactly the color temperature of this, that, and the other at that time, because you're dealing with light or clouds or all the types of things you need to. It's like, no, that's it, roll, quick, get it, kind of thing, right? Whereas an engineering side of things, it's like, no, hold on a minute, I've got to reset it to 56K kind of thing, right? It's like there's an engineering, it's like this very, very linear thing, whereas the creative process is like, must be so frustrating for an engineer to watch it happen. It's like
I do wonder if
together.
some of the AI engineers involved in some of the video generation things have spent time in film sets and just thought it was really slow and frustrating and boring to watch, because it is quite a boring process to watch. I've done a couple of jobs recently that I've had lots of kids in the cast, and quite a lot of them have commented on how boring the process of filmmaking is, with so much standing around watching. And I'm like, that's like, I mean, and like for the DP, especially probably the DOP more than anybody else, it's not ever boring because we never have a single second. And it's one of the things I love about that job is you never have a single second. It's the same with VP supervising. Like I'm probably the reason I do what I'm doing is because I'm like I get bored quickly if I'm not engaged with the process. And yeah, definitely DOP and VP supervisor. I don't think we always say me and my sort of on-set VP team, we like never get to break for lunch properly. Like we maybe get 15-20 minutes like each one at a time, but we never all get an hour.
You're in an hour.
It's the only time in the day on a VP job when you can like catch up with all of the list of things that need fixing is over lunch, and the day is like, it just flies by because you're so busy when we're
you're normally in an hour earlier
doing a VP job.
To get it up and right, and you're normally in.
There's always something. There's some
get it up and running,
issue with
you've got to get it up and running before
the
everyone
sync
walks
cards
in.
having a hooey about something, or there's some issue with this, or that volumetric light is not behaving in that scene, and this transition's not working, and all this sort of stuff. And the director's changed this alien spaceship to be a dinosaur on the pre-light day or whatever it is. So yeah, it's there's never a dull moment. But I wouldn't like, I don't know, this is the thing with some of this AI stuff, is trying to replace some of these like processes that from the outside are like long and laborious or repetitive or look boring or look time consuming, but they are like a fundamental part of the artistic process. And that's why I think as filmmakers we need to get involved in the creation of some of these tools and not let them be created by the people, because when the technology people are creating the tools for the artists, they're often removing all of those parts of the process that is when the artistic
because what they look
creation
at,
happens.
they look at that sort of process and they go, well, it's like any management consultancy, I guess, to a degree as well. It's like, what can we take out of this process to streamline it, to get more time, more money, less money, etc., for the same quality. That's what you do when you look at any system. You do try and do that. But to your point, it's like you suddenly take these things out, and there's a collapse, inevitable collapse kind of thing, because you're not going to get the same result. And I think there's ways, when you approach them as an artist and a creative, I think there's ways of creating these tools in a way that helps with that process. And rather than things like, I mean, one of the tools that I think is great with AI, I've got this thing called Granola. Do you use Granola? Someone told me about Granola.
Oh my god, Granola is amazing. Granola sits on your computer. There's like, I don't know, so you might have seen Otter, which is like where people will join a Zoom call from their Otter AI.
And it just starts.
Well, this is one that just sits on your computer and it just listens to the call, and then it just gives you the meeting minutes afterwards. It's so good. I can be so much more present in calls now because I don't have to write anything down. I don't have to write a single thing down. It gives you a full, really accurate transcript afterwards. And but it gives you this like sort of minutes of the meeting afterwards. So you can just go in and like, I had a bunch of meetings recently. We've got a job where we've got people filming plates all over the world for a job. And so I've been having loads of meetings with camera people all around the world, and literally I'm just getting confused about whose names, who's who and what names and blah blah. And I can just go back into the transcript and see like, oh, that's the guy who's doing the filming in Guatemala. That's the guy who's all right. And I know then when I'm seeing emails, it's just, I love Granola so much. That is an AI tool that like helps my creative process because I use it. One of the big things I use it for is when I'm on calls with directors, because quite often we're prepping remotely, at least at the beginning of films, and it's just so good to be able to be completely present and not have to worry about missing something later on, and being able to have both the abridged version and the full transcript available to go back in. So we can just shot list, we can just talk, just chat it through, and just not have to think about recording any information, and then later on it's all there for us in a digestible format.
That's really
it's good.
Because I've got muscle memory that will always follow up instantly with an email back to everyone who was on the call with all the notes. That's my muscle memory in that, because that thing didn't exist. Right? So that's what I would do, because actually I do it 9 times out of 10.
I'm not that organised, not a producer, so I'm just not that organised.
Because I know if it's fresh in my brain, I will do it just as much for me for everyone else, and then everyone else has not got an excuse to not know that they've got an action in it, kind of thing. But as you said, so granola's just put me out of a job, kind of thing, or put that, which is good, because I tell you what, it takes a long time to get your head around it as well, which is pretty cool. How are we doing for time? Have you seen where are we at?
I don't know.
Normally it's going for about an hour. So, and we're at, what are we at? Oh, this one here. Oh, we're at 1 hour 2.
Okay. Good.
What was there? What was there anything? We talked about a lot of AI. I tell you what, we'll finish on the future of VP. There we go. Over to you.
Okay. So I've been saying for a long time, with a couple of things I've been saying with VP for a long time. One is that I think.
First of all, what's your definition of virtual production? First of all.
I don't care.
Okay, fair enough. Carry on.
I literally, I don't.
That's good. That's enough.
I think virtual production is whatever. I don't. It's whatever you want to call it. People call all sorts of things virtual production that aren't really virtual production, and lots of things that are virtual production aren't called virtual production. I don't really care.
Brilliant. Fair enough. Best answer I've had so far. Actually, the shortest one. Normally, I ask in as fewer words as possible, and I think actually that's I don't care. Is probably
I don't. I literally, I don't, and I don't really care about like defining things. And this is what I mean about hype cycles and stuff. I just don't care. I want to use it to tell stories. If it works, then it's great, and I'll keep using it. If it doesn't, I won't use it again. Like that's my attitude to all tools, really. So what was the original question? Future VP.
Future VP.
So a couple of things are starting to happen that I've been waiting for and pushing for a long time. One of them is moving beyond putting up a big flat wall and shooting into it. We're doing a job at the moment that I can't talk about at all. That is very much architectural in nature when it comes to the VP, to the LED screens and the VP work. It's not your average sort of flat or curved wall. It's much more interesting, and I think we're going to see more and more of that when we have sets that are thinking about LED from their inception, and where we're mixing different techniques in terms of the content that we're displaying, the way that we're displaying it. I think that's going to be really interesting. I think there's going to be more and more of that. It's partly enabled by the LED manufacturers getting more creative with the types of panels. We've got curved panels, we've got different shapes, we've got different pixel densities, we've got panels you can drive a truck over, all that sort of stuff is really interesting. I think I hope that Unreal Engine just becomes used more and more as a creative tool. I really think it's a great creative tool, and I love trying out ideas in it. It's my kind of visual sketchpad now. If I'm prepping a film and there's a scene, happened on a short film earlier this year, there was a scene where it was a little bit of a tricky lighting situation. It was kind of like a room with no windows, and hard to know like where to put the lights and how to light it, and also hard to get into the director's head. She had a specific idea about the mood of the scene, and I spent 20 minutes just quickly building something in Unreal Engine with some Megascans assets, based on what the art director had said. They were going to dress the room like, and I just put a few lights in and moved them around and just played around and pulled out like half a dozen different screenshots, sent them to the director, and she went, that one, that's exactly it. You've nailed it. That's exactly what I want. And now I can side by side the final frame with that, what I did in Unreal Engine in 20 minutes, and it's like you have to sort of squint to know which one's which. That's exactly what we shot. And it worked great. And I wouldn't have had the time on set, and this is, you know, I don't know if this was ever the case in filmmaking that you ever had the time, but I wouldn't have had the time to try 6 different lighting ideas. Like, no DP has the time for that, unless even if you're working on massive productions, I don't think you've got the time to try 6 different ideas. So that ability to sort of sketch ideas out and feel how the light's going to fall in a space, feel how a different lens is gonna feel versus another. All of those sort of things, I think, are amazing with Unreal Engine. And then the ability that if you're then doing a virtual production project, I can take those sketches and actually develop those into something that we can actually have in the final camera picture is a very interesting workflow and not something we've really ever had available before. So I think we're going to find more and more of that. I'm trying to teach as many DOPs as I can Unreal Engine. I've created some courses with like Final Pixel Academy and other places. Any DPs who want to have a chat, very happy to. Trying to teach DOPs and directors how to use that as a tool, along with lots of other people are also trying to teach people. And I think that's going to be really interesting in the future, as we get a generation of filmmakers who have been using that from the beginning,
right? And that's the
core part of their creative workflow.
Native EP, native kind of thing. It's a bit like, you know, as your point earlier on. You know, if you've only ever known digital cameras, you're not encumbered, I guess, by. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, like DOTs now don't do what DOTs did 12 years ago because all the camera teams now know how to turn a camera on and use the menus and stuff. They don't need the same thing, so that role has evolved. And you know, equally, I think. Like some of the things we do as VP supervisors now, I would really hope in a decade's time we don't have to do some of the explaining how camera tracking works at the start of every job to every member of the creative team because it's the first time they've used it. Because in 10 years' time, I feel like almost all directors and DPs will have been brought up with it, done it at film school, figured it all out, maybe got like a little Unreal Engine end display set up at home with their TV and whatever. So that role is going to evolve, and that I think that's a good thing. I think we're going to end up in a good place.
Yeah, defo. Thank you, mate. That was really good.
Thank you for having me.
I feel like that was part one of a series of possible conversations we should have.
I'll see if I can come up with anything new next time.
I don't know, because you might be able to talk about the things you can't talk about. Maybe, but it's a lot of it. I think the interesting thing about the conversations we've had on the podcast is that actually people don't necessarily go into too much detail about the work because it's sort of a case study kind of thing. What's interesting is just their experiences as well, I think, because it's the long form podcast format allows you to have a sort of a conversation rather than it being sort of a presentation or sort of trying to put across a case study.
Yes.
Which is good. It's good fun as well. And you get to talk to cool people and even people like you.
Cheers, Rob.
That's all right. Right. We'll call it there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Great.
Fabulous. That
Very
was cool.
good. Hope everything's recorded. It's a very strange experience. I always find it strange doing anything